Good morning. I'm Nitasha Buldeo, and welcome to Wellbeing Wednesday. Now, this is our second webinar, and last week I did promise to do a webinar on hormonal health this week, and we did have a recording with a few experts in terms of women's health and women's hormones. However, what's happened over the last week is I've received numerous questions and suggestions, as well as questions relating to hormones in general. So what we've decided to do is, as opposed to doing the program focusing just on women's health and menopause today, we've decided to do a webinar focused on how to balance hormones naturally. Now, within our bodies, there are numerous hormones that all work together to enable us to live healthy, to achieve all the things we want to achieve. When we talk about hormones, we refer to your stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, which we require to enable us to achieve the things we need to achieve our goals, run from danger. However, when these hormone levels are too high, they actually have a negative effect on the system. We also talk about hormones related to weight gain and appetite, ghrelin, etc. Hormones related to glucose metabolism, hormones like insulin. And then we of course have growth hormones, your male and female hormones, testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. Now, in order for us to be healthy, we need all of these hormones to find a natural balance within our bodies. Today's program, we're going to be focusing generally on how to keep hormones balanced so that we can feel healthy and thrive. And next week, we will do a program more focused on female hormones. So once we understand what's required generally to keep our hormones in balance, then we can become more specific with regards to the specific hormones. So today's webinar focuses on 7 ways to balance hormones naturally. I have a little presentation today that will actually help simplify the entire process. Plus, it gives you a little ability to take away these notes. So when it comes to balance hormones naturally, we start thinking about general lifestyle changes. And these 7 easy to follow methods actually enable us to not only balance hormones, but actually to feel healthy and to thrive in life. So I'm going to move right into it. One of the ways, or the first way to balance hormones, is to ensure that we're eating enough protein. Now, dietary protein provides the amino acids that your body cannot make. And you need to eat proteins that give you these amino acids on a daily basis because they help maintain healthy bone, muscle, and skin. Protein also has the ability to influence the release of hormones that control appetite. So it's very important to eat sufficient amounts of protein to prevent cravings and overeating. So eating enough protein has been shown to decrease the levels of ghrelin. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone. So having enough protein decreases this hunger hormone and enables you to feel satiated. Eating enough protein also increases the production of hormones that actually help you feel good. Now, the hormones that help you feel satiated are also closely related to mood. So it's not just about feeling full and happy and content in terms of food. It actually has an overall effect on our mood. So it's very, very important to ensure that you're having enough protein. And the rule is have between 20 to 30 grams of protein at each meal. Now, what you'll notice is I have a little diagram of high protein foods. And while it does contain meat-based proteins, even as a vegan or vegetarian, you can get sufficient amounts of protein, and you really need to ensure that you're having the foods that are high in protein. Plant-based protein is just as good, if not better, than your animal-based proteins. So as a vegetarian or vegan, just ensure that you're getting in your legumes, your tofu, and that you're having it in sufficient amounts to ensure that you have your protein levels. There's multiple sources of vegan proteins. So we will do a program in future on how to ensure that you're eating healthy as a vegan. But for now, just ensure that with every meal, you're getting between 20 to 30 grams of protein. And we'll talk a little bit about meal planning as we progress through these 7 stages or 7 ways. The second thing is to cut sugar and refined carbs. Now, this comes up over and over again. When we start talking about healthy diet, we start talking about cutting sugars. Now, the reason is fructose, one of the most abundant forms of sugar that we eat, increases insulin levels and promotes insulin resistance. Now, insulin is the hormone that actually helps our bodies metabolize glucose. It enables cells in the body to take up glucose from the blood and converts that glucose into energy. So while there are natural forms of glucose like honey and maple syrup, there are also processed forms like high fructose corn syrup and refined table sugar. Now, the problem is when you have too much of fructose in your diet, what that does is it increases the levels of insulin in your body and causes insulin resistance. So the cells stop responding to the insulin appropriately and aren't able to metabolize the sugar. So this is a huge problem. And the best way to actually reduce insulin resistance is by reducing your fructose levels. The way you do that is by eating whole foods. Now, when you have processed sugars, when it's just the sugar extracted from a plant or a natural source, what happens is the dose of sugar given to the body at any one go is too high. When you have a whole food, because the whole food contains fiber and cellulose and all the other nutrients, it slows down the release of sugar into your bloodstream and actually helps to control the sugar. So the aim or the best way to actually reduce the amount of glucose and sugars in your blood is actually to start eating whole foods. Whole food diets are shown to reduce insulin levels in people with prediabetes and other insulin resistant conditions like polycystic ovarian syndrome. We will be doing a webinar focused on polycystic ovarian syndrome and endometriosis in the upcoming weeks. Now, here I have a whole foods pyramid, basically how we should be eating whole foods. If you look at the staple or the bottom is water. We actually need to have sufficient amounts of water because water does help flush out the entire system and also decrease the amount of sugars in the blood by actually helping flush out the blood. We also need to have sufficient amounts of leafy green vegetables because we get loads of nutrients from these leafy green vegetables and they tend to be lower in sugars. Now, vegetable is also very, very important. Just ensure that you're having sufficient vegetable. You're also looking at the various colors of vegetable and you're eating a variety of vegetables so you get the nutrients from your vegetable. Fruit needs to be eaten in moderation, especially if you are pre-diabetic or have any of the insulin resistant conditions. Fruit is very high in fructose. So we really need to think about the amount of fruit we're eating. However, if you are craving sugars, then it is preferable to have fruit than any processed sugar. So yes, eat whole foods and ensure that you're having sufficient amounts of water. Now, if you look at this whole foods pyramid, we also talk about sprouts and legumes. It's once again relating to protein and amino acids. And also we need to start thinking about microgreens, as well as juicing grasses. Now, these microgreens, seaweed, etc., provide the body with essential nutrients that we do need to consume, maybe not daily, but definitely on a regular basis. These provide the body with key nutrients that enable us to remain healthy, and for the cells to actually remain as healthy as possible. Now, it's very important as a vegan or vegetarian, in fact, for anybody, to actually eat sprouts. So ensure that you're sprouting your lentils and your seeds, because sprouts give you nutrients that aren't available in fully grown vegetable, but also ensure that when you're having your sprouts, that you're having them raw, because cooking actually damages those vital nutrients. Okay, so now we move on to point number 3, eat healthy fats. Now, high quality fats help reduce your insulin resistance and also help satisfy hunger. So if you're not having enough fats, you will crave or foods, or you will need to eat a lot more if you're not getting good fats. So yes, so it is also very important, I mentioned good fats, to have good fats as opposed to your bad fats. Now, the rule is eat one source of healthy fat at each meal. So on the table here, I have a list of good and bad fats. Now, the rule is at least 20 to 35% of your calories consumed in any day needs to come from good fats. And your choice of fat determines your health. So your good fats are able to raise your levels of good cholesterol. They also fight inflammation, control blood clotting, and lower blood pressure. Bad fats have the opposite effect, but they also also have the ability to increase your risk of type 2 diabetes and significantly increase your risk for heart disease. So yeah, what are good fats? Good fats are your nuts, good nuts like almonds, walnuts, but also olive oil, flaxseed, avocados. And if you're a pescatarian or an omnivore, it's important to have fatty fish. So yeah, you can get your good fats from either plant-based sources or fatty fish. Now, when we talk about bad fats, fried food, seafood, your prawns and crayfish, etc., red meat, processed meat. Processed meat is very, very high in fat and salt, so just be wary about having processed meat. And also dairy products, including your cheese, etc. Now, it's very important to limit the amount of dairy in your diet, especially the high-fat dairy and high-fat cheeses. Yeah, so have at least 20 to 35% of fat as per your calorie intake. Ensure that you're having one source of healthy fat at each meal. Yeah, so it could be breakfast with flax seeds, lunch with a bit of avocado, dinner with some olive oil drizzled over your meal. So yeah, let's move on to number 4. This is a very, very important point. Avoid overeating and undereating. Now, eating too many or too few calories leads to hormonal imbalances. Eating too much leads to increased levels of insulin and insulin resistance, as discussed previously. But eating too little puts your body in a state of stress and increases your stress hormones like cortisol. So when you're in a prolonged starvation mode, what that does is puts your body under stress. So it's very important to ensure that you're eating sufficiently. Now, what is recommended is that you eat at least 1,200 calories per day. However, this needs to be monitored on an individual basis. Every person has different needs. Now, if you carry a lot of muscle, then you may actually require a higher calorie intake than somebody who carries less muscle. So pay attention to what your body needs and give it what it requires for you to actually function optimally throughout the day. What I have here is basically what 1,200 calories looks like. And you can see that, it's quite a lot of food that you can eat to actually satisfy yourself with a 1,200 calorie diet. And also this diet contains meat sources like chicken, and I've also included shrimps. And now, while shrimps are bad cholesterol, you can have them in small amounts, added to your tacos, etc. However, you can get the same calorie content from a vegan or vegetarian diet as well. Now, point number 5, engage in regular exercise. Exercise helps reduce insulin levels and increases insulin sensitivity. Now, as discussed earlier, insulin is a hormone that has several functions, and one of the functions of insulin is to allow cells to take up sugar and amino acids from the blood, and then it's converted into energy that helps maintain muscle and brain function. And this is the reason that you can often feel very energized after exercise. Now, exercise also helps boost levels of hormones that decline with age, such as testosterone, estrogen, as well as your growth hormones. And when we talk about exercise, we don't mean your HIITs and your very high intensity exercise. Just regular walking helps increase these hormone levels. And just regular walking at your own pace, just ensuring that you're keeping it up consistently for sufficient time every day. Just regular walking has the ability to improve strength and quality of life. However, what research has shown is that 30 minutes of a combination of resistance and aerobic training has the best results in terms of hormonal balance. Now, yoga, Pilates, and resistance band training are all very beneficial for balancing hormones. So it does not have to be high intensity exercise. It just needs to be regular, consistent exercise using some resistance training. So what I have here is a list of yoga poses that actually are specific for balancing hormones. However, if you're practicing yoga, it's very, very important to breathe correctly while you maintain those poses. If you're not breathing correctly, you do not benefit from those yoga postures. So ensure that you're inhaling and exhaling deeply, and that you maintain poses for the sufficient amount of time to benefit fully from their effect on balancing hormones. Now, the other very, very important things when we talk about balancing hormones, and we did mention the stress hormones previously, one of the important things is learning how to manage stress. Stress wreaks havoc on all the hormones in the body. However, its very, very specific effect is on 2 hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. Cortisol is known as the stress hormone because it helps your body cope with stress. And adrenaline is the fight or flight hormone because it provides your body with a surge of energy that enables you to respond to immediate danger. Now, while we need these hormones in our bodies to actually enable us to run from danger or to cope with sudden circumstances that require fast action, having high levels of these hormones over a long period of time is negative or has negative effects on the body. And because of the lifestyle we currently lead, where there's constant stimulus and there's a constant impetus to go, 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 what we're finding is that more and more people have high levels of these stress hormones. And that has negative consequences on the heart and the cardiovascular system. Hence, it's becoming even more important to devote at least 10 to 15 minutes a day to stress reducing activities. Now, yoga and meditation, not all types of meditation, but some types of meditation have been shown to be beneficial in reducing your levels of cortisol. However, there are many other activities that are able to reduce stress hormones as well. Listening to music, dancing, playing games if you're not competitive, those all have the ability to actually help reduce stress hormones as well. So if you don't have a regular activity that actually helps you, or a daily regular activity that helps you balance your stress hormones, then I do recommend that you try out a few different techniques known to balance stress hormones, and you find the one that works for you and make it regular, in that you practice that particular activity every day. So just 10 to 15 minutes of a stress reducing technique every day can actually have a hugely positive effect on balancing stress hormones and helping overall well-being. Okay, and then the important thing is to get high quality sleep. Now, your body only heals as you sleep. Therefore, your health will suffer if you don't get enough restorative sleep. Poor sleep is linked to imbalances in hormones such as insulin, cortisol, leptin, ghrelin, the hunger hormone, growth hormone, all the male and female hormones, as well as your immune protective factors. So not only does poor quality sleep affect hormonal levels, it also affects immune function. So we need to ensure that we're getting good quality sleep. Now, it's not the quantity of sleep that's important. It is the quality of sleep that's important. Every night, our bodies need to go through all 5 of the stages within the sleep cycle for us to be able to actually heal. We do need to experience deep sleep. Now, what I have here is a list of tips to actually help you get a deeper sleep. However, if these tips don't work for you, if you've been struggling to get good quality sleep, then I do recommend trying one of the workshops or more specific techniques to get deeper sleep. We do have the iYoga Deep Sleep workshop, or I do lead the iYoga Deep Sleep workshop, and you can find details of that on the iyoga.org website. However, let's talk about some tips to get better quality sleep. Now, before bed, you need to put away your phone and all devices at least 2 hours before going to sleep. And when I say all devices, it's iPads, notebooks, as well as the television screen. Now, the blue light from these devices actually impairs sleep. In terms of thinking about hormones and how they work, in the mornings, our cortisol levels increase to enable us to get going. And in the evening, cortisol dips and melatonin levels go up, and that enables the sleep-wake cycle. However, blue light actually increases the amount of cortisol within our bodies. Hence, the levels of melatonin will remain low, and we won't be able to get a deep enough sleep. So ensure that you switch off and put away all devices, including television screens, at least 2 hours before you plan to sleep. And in those 2 hours, what you could do is read a book, or do yoga or meditate. Now, I recommend a moon salutation sequence, which you can also find on the iYoga website. So moon salutations actually help relax every single muscle in the body, and that encourages a deeper sleep. Or there are various meditation techniques that enable deep sleep as well. Other things that work are herbal teas like chamomile. There are a few sleep blends that actually work for some people. You may want to try that and find one that works for you. And then aromatherapy. Some essential oils like lavender and chamomile are known to encourage relaxation, and that helps a deeper sleep. So you can use a diffuser in your room with the aromatherapy oils. You can put a few drops on your pillow, or you can take a bath with a few drops of those aromatherapy oils in your bath water to enable you to get a better quality sleep. Now, while you're asleep, it's very important to not be charging your devices in the room that you're sleeping in. So charge devices outside. Also, make sure that your room is at a comfortable temperature, not too hot or too cold. That encourages you to maintain a state of restfulness and to sleep deeply. Now, talking about blue light and artificial light, we're exposed to artificial light all day, and that increases cortisol levels. So it's really, really important to ensure that there are no sources of artificial light in your room. If you're unable to completely block out light with blinds or a curtain, then I do recommend wearing an eye mask. The other thing is artificial sounds. Now, there's sounds, we're exposed to sound pollution throughout the day. And night. So if you find that you are getting up frequently because of sounds, or that you're not sleeping deeply enough because of ambient noise, then I do recommend trying earplugs, because if you can block out sounds, then you can get into a deeper state of restfulness. Now, the other important thing is the morning after. So as soon as you arise, ensure that you allow in natural light. The reason we do that is because natural light has the effect of increasing our cortisol levels. If you're using an alarm to get up, ensure that you don't hit the snooze button. It's the best way to actually have a regular time to go to sleep is by starting to have a regular time that you arise, that you wake up every morning. So, in order to maintain consistency in the sleep-wake cycle, it's very important that you wake at a similar time every morning. So if you're using an alarm, don't hit the snooze button, arise or wake up, get out of bed, open up the curtains and stretch, do some sort of activity, drink some water. That all has an effect on energizing the body and enabling cortisol levels to start increasing. Now, I recommend doing a Surya Namaskar practice every morning to actually start to stimulate the body and get going. So Chandra Namaskar, or your moon salutation, in the evenings, and your sun salutation or Surya Namaskar in the mornings. Now, by doing those activities, we're stimulating the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system appropriately, and that way we can regulate the sleep hormones. So yes, it's very, very important to ensure that our hormones stay balanced in order for us to feel healthy and to remain healthy, because once there's an imbalance, there is negative effects on the entire body. And these 7 simple to follow steps are able to actually help you maintain hormonal balance. Now, next week, we will be focusing on women's health, specifically menopause. It's exciting to be discussing that next week, as we're in the middle of Navratri, which is the Indian celebration of the divine feminine. So yeah, we'll be talking menopause, we'll be talking women's health, we'll be talking about the concept of the divine feminine and celebrating our feminine qualities. So I look forward to seeing you next week, and thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.